St.Theodosius Cathedral is the oldest Orthodox Christian church in the state of Ohio. It is located in the historic Tremont area of the city of Cleveland. The historic cathedral was constructed between 1911 and 1912 and is considered one of the finest examples of Russian church architecture in the United States. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places in the United States. The parish of St. Theodosius Orthodox Christian Cathedral was organized by immigrant Russians living in Tremont in 1896. St. Theodosius Cathedral was the mother church for most of the Orthodox Christian churches in Northeast Ohio today. The cathedral is perhaps best known for its appearance in the 1978 Best Picture winning film The Deer Hunter with Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, and Meryl Streep. Ken Kovach has been choir master at St. Theodosius for 50 years. He gives us a tour of the inside of the cathedral and shares some thoughts on the Eastern Orthodox Church. Let's go inside. All right, this is the choir loft at St. Theodosius Cathedral. We're lucky to have the choir master here today, Ken Kovach. Be sure to watch his video. And here's looking down to the pews, some of the icons, Sermon on the Mount.
And as you're doing that, Dan, just to point out that we had some severe water damage in the cathedral. So on that one big rose window there, we will have iconographers coming back this summer to do the repair work. It's like in 5 or 6 years. It appears that somebody shot bottle rockets up on the roof, and
Really?
They melted the membrane that protected that. So we will. It's now probably. I have to look on my statistics, but we had the entire cathedral renovated. Restoration took place. If you look at that wall there, that's the entrance of Christ into Jerusalem. I used to think he came at nighttime because it was so dark, but it was just from all the years of incense and candle smoke and so that was really dark, but everything has been totally cleaned and sealed with a special sealant now, so it just can be washed off. This wonderful chandelier, they all come, they're from Czechoslovakia, and they were brought here. The story is that this cathedral was built in part with funds from the Tsar. So it goes back to, the cathedral was built between 1911 and 1912. So it's even older than I am. And the gilt work, the color of the icon screen, which separates the altar from the main part, the nave of the church. That used to be a blue color, it was a green color. That's the original color there. So everything was done back to the original color. All the gilt on the pillars and that. And beautiful pictures of angels. Angels there, angels there. In the Eastern Christian Church, angels play a pretty key role. I mean, we're singing about angels all the time within the context of our liturgies. We, particularly when we commemorate the Mother of God, the Virgin Mary, the prayer starts out, more honorable than the cherubim and more glorious than the seraphim. Who are the cherubim and seraphim? They were ranks of angels. So angels play a key role here, and I always like to think that when I come in here, those angels help me sing. They're in the heavenly choir and we're the earthly choir, and sometimes it's tough to keep the earthly choir on pitch, but it's so there's a lot of restoration work that has been done. When you're 120 years old, you need restoration work. So we're also going to. We had the bells. The bells are obviously you can't see them, but they're the original bells, and that they were now electrified. So before we had ropes and on each side, and you had to pull the ropes to ring the bells. Well, we found out that the foundations holding the bells were not steady. And we were just very lucky that somebody could have started pulling those bells, ropes, right? And that bell would have come right through the roof there. So they're all now run electrically, but it's the same bells there. And they're really glorious sounding bells. I think these are some of the finest examples of stained glass windows in that. And the colors are really magnificent. On the outside, they're all protected by Lexan. I think we're blessed here because we've had precious little vandalism. The only thing that was really broken into is we had these big, thick copper drain pipes, right, downspouts. And those were gone many times, so we now switched to a cheaper metal and paint them to look like they were copper and that.
Copper's too tempting.
Copper is too tempting, that. So the stained glass windows, and then the iconography in here, what you see is what's called Neo-Byzantine, the new Byzantine style. The Byzantine style, if you've seen the traditional Byzantine icon, the faces are very kind of long and drawn and very kind of solemn looking and that. And these are little blend of kind of Western artwork here. But again, there we have Prince Vladimir. Obviously, when it comes to the Russian community, Vladimir was the one that brought Christianity to Russia. Cyril and Methodius, those next two windows there, they were the people that wrote the Cyrillic alphabet so that people could pray in a language they understood. And then over here is St. Olga, and of course, the mother of St. Vladimir there. And then on the other side here, we have St. Helen and St. Constantine in the middle there. It was the Empress Helen who found the Holy Cross and brought it back out. St. Nina here, we had a pastor here who was born in Georgia, Reverend Jason Kapanasi, who actually, the story says, he was a classmate of Stalin in school, and then you see they took different courses there. But St. Nina is here, and then St. Andrew, the first called. One thing, when you come into an Orthodox church, it's a living Bible. I mean, it's Bible in pictures. So all of the main feasts and things. Actually, when you start at the back of the cathedral, downstairs, you want to go down there and look at that?
Yeah.
Okay. When you come to worship in the Eastern Christian Church, I think in many churches, if you open the door, there's steps. You have to climb up some steps. You have to make an effort to get in here, okay? And once you climb the steps and come inside, boom, here you are in the Old Testament. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden there, and the prophets there. And so the idea that, somebody's trying to get in maybe? The idea that we're coming out of the kind of earthly world here and transitioning. This is the Old Testament, and we know what happened in the Old Testament. Adam and Eve were kicked out, and so that's the hand we've been dealt. We're always kind of trying to get back to paradise, and the prophets, those are the ones that have been able to tell us the pathways, show us the pathways. As we come inside here now we're in the New Testament, and at the very back of the church here is an icon of the Nativity, a mural of the Nativity of Christ. So actually it begins with the Annunciation to the Virgin Mary there, that you're going to be the Theotokos, you're going to be the Mother of God, you're going to bear Jesus Christ our Savior. And the prophets that talked about that, and then the event itself, and more of the prophets have talked about that. And then what happened, Mary and Joseph leave to escape the persecution that they were facing. So you walk in here, and all of a sudden this is surrounded by the glory of God. And as you look forward, you see the icon screen, which again is like separates the altar from the nave of the church here. You can see still the decorations from Easter. They'll be up until Pentecost, but your attention is kind of drawn from earth to heaven. As we move down here a little further, you can see up on this arch there, you see, actually the arch shows the empty tomb with the angel, and right above that is the resurrected Christ. So We go from Adam and Eve in the garden and then being expelled to the birth of Christ and to the fulfillment of that, the resurrection, and then right behind us, up there is the ascension, which we celebrate today. And then as we turn around here, Dan, then we have Holy Pentecost too. Standing and turning out my head up is dizzy. So again, this is the Bible in pictures, okay? And for early people came here, immigrants and that, not some maybe not very literate, others more literate, but in the early church and the old churches, the pictures, right? And they were there all the time. You could see them. What always amazes me on the pillars, the columns there are represented the martyrs of the church, those who gave their lives so that the Church of Christ would survive. And so who are the pillars of the church? Well, the martyrs, right? And then we are surrounded by a great crowd of saints, right? There we have the baptism of Christ in the Jordan up there in the corner there. You could spend quite a long time just looking at all the detail. The iconographer is Andrei Bisenko, and long since passed. But you know, remember when 9/11 was 2001, right? Well, that in 2001 is when all the restoration work was going on. At one time, there were twice as many pews here, right? And the pews were dark like the windowsills there. So we reduced the number of pews, so we have more room here. They were clean. There was an old red carpet on the floor here. That was taken up, and this new marble floor, and we're about ready to have some new carpeting in here. The chandeliers, everything was rewired. Every inch of here was clean, covered, and protected. And we were anticipating our head of the Orthodox Church in America to come to the cathedral in that September of 2001 to do the re-blessing, the reconsecration. So we were able to get our diocesan bishop by car to come from Chicago. And so it was interesting. While all the stuff of 9/11 was going on, we were here in church. It was our rededication. It was the feast of St. Theodosius. And that was the best place to be, because there were the prayers. There were the prayers of those who perished, those who were injured in that. And there we were, celebrating this kind of restoration of this cathedral, but also making a statement about humanity and that we can rise above things that happen in the world. This is the high place outside in the nave here where the other people, the other parishioners are. It is where the bishop would sit before he starts officiating. So like for Vespers, he would sit here and then give a blessing later. But so he's there. There's another chair like this in the altar where he would sit during the services.
And that's because it's a cathedral.
Right.
Bishop is.
Yes, and we don't have a bishop assigned here, but our diocesan bishop actually lives in Chicago. So. And here, Dan, these are the relics of St. Theodosius. So this is a little piece of his relic there. So that's the Last Supper represented there, and then, of course, Virgin Mary. Since this is a Russian church, on the stained glass windows are the 4 great patriarchs from Russia. So, wow. Peter, St. Alexis, St. Jonah, and St. Philip. This was made for me in Volgograd. This is St.Theodosius Orthodox. He is the big patron saint of the Orthodox Church in Russia. But this is, you see how this is constructed with, so the boards don't warp in that, and how it's carved out so the painting is in there. And you can see this iconography here, the face is a little more harsh, severe than that. And this altar here, it's hollow inside, and there are these cross beams, and in the middle of these cross beams are the relics, I think, a dozen different saints.
Wow.
And part of the back in 2001 is they rebuilt the altar. So this cover was off, and just the framework is in there. And the bishop that was here, they took the relics and with hot wax, poured the hot wax over the relics and sealed them into this altar here. And then this was put back on. And that's a table of preparation for the communion there. Now we still have the palms from Pascha and that.
So this is in the same vein as like the Ark.
Yeah. Well, and that's in that replica, the cathedral replica, are the reserved sacraments. So for the sacrament of holy unction and that, people call them last rites, but we have them holy unction. So there's prepared in there, and it's inside. You can see that in the middle there's a container